Imagine you're running, not for exercise, not because you want to, because something much larger than you is chasing you. Your feet pound against frozen earth. Sharp rocks cut into the thin soles of your animal hide shoes. Branches whip across your face as you weave through the forest. Behind you, something crashes through the trees. You don't even look back. You don't need to. You already know it's gaining on you. Then, one careless step, your foot lands on a loose rock. It rolls. Your body twists. You hear it before you feel it. Crack. A sound so loud it seems to echo through the entire valley. Pain explodes through your leg. You hit the ground hard. For a second, you can't breathe. You try to stand. Your leg folds underneath you. It won't hold your weight anymore. The hunting party stops. The animal disappears into the distance. No one says anything. They don't need to. Everyone understands exactly what has happened. Because this isn't just your broken leg. It's everyone's problem now. 50,000 years ago, breaking your leg wasn't simply painful. It could completely change the fate of your entire family. Today, breaking a leg is miserable, but it's rarely life-threatening. Someone calls an ambulance. Doctors take x-rays. Your leg is placed in a cast. Maybe you need surgery, maybe a few metal screws. Several weeks later, you're walking again. The hardest part might be climbing stairs or explaining to your boss why you can't come to work. But remove all of that. No ambulance, no hospital, no painkillers, no crutches, no casts, no antibiotics, no emergency room, only a broken bone, and a world that never stops demanding movement. Because hunger doesn't wait for healing. Winter doesn't wait. Predators don't wait. A broken leg doesn't pause life. Life keeps moving, with or without you. Now imagine you're lying on the cold ground. The pain is unbearable, but something even worse begins creeping into your mind. How do you get home? Your camp isn't just a few minutes away. It could be 15, 20, even 30 kilometers across rough terrain. You can't crawl that far. You can't walk. You can't stay where you are. Night is coming. Temperatures are already dropping. And once darkness falls, you won't be the only hunter looking for food. For most animals, this is where the story ends. A deer with a shattered leg doesn't recover. Neither does a zebra or a gazelle. A broken leg in the wild usually becomes a death sentence. Not because the injury itself kills them, because they can no longer escape, no longer hunt, no longer keep up with the herd. Nature is brutally efficient. The weak disappear, which raises an extraordinary question. If humans lived in exactly the same dangerous world, why didn't we disappear too? The answer isn't strength. It isn't intelligence. It isn't better bones. In fact, human bones break surprisingly easily. Your femur, the strongest bone in your body, can withstand enormous force. But your lower leg? One awkward fall, one misplaced step, one charging animal, one collapsing hillside, and suddenly your entire future changes. Archaeologists have uncovered skeletons tens of thousands of years old, showing healed fractures that should have been impossible to survive alone. Broken legs, crushed feet, shattered hips. Some individuals lived not for weeks, but for years after devastating injuries. Think about what that means. Someone who couldn't walk, someone who couldn't hunt, someone who couldn't gather food, somehow survived long enough for bone to completely heal. That shouldn't happen. Not in the Ice Age. Not without hospitals. Not without medicine. Unless something else was happening. Something that separated humans from nearly every other animal on Earth. To understand how remarkable that really is, we first need to understand what actually happens inside your body the moment a bone breaks. Because your skeleton is far more alive than most people realize. So, what actually happens the instant a bone breaks? Most people imagine bones as dry, lifeless sticks hidden beneath the skin. They aren't. Bones are living organs. Right now, blood is flowing through them. Tiny cells are constantly rebuilding them. Old bone is being broken down. New bone is being created. Your skeleton isn't a statue. It's under construction every second of your life, which is fortunate because the moment your leg snaps, that construction project changes completely. Inside the bone, blood vessels tear apart. The hard outer shell fractures. The soft marrow inside begins bleeding into the surrounding tissue. Within seconds, your body knows something is terribly wrong. Pain receptors fire like alarm bells. Your heart begins pumping faster. Stress hormones flood your bloodstream. Every system suddenly shifts toward one goal: survive. The swelling begins almost immediately. Blood leaks into the damaged muscles. The skin stretches tighter and tighter. The broken ends of the bone grind against each other whenever you move. Even the smallest movement sends another wave of pain through your body. Now imagine experiencing all of this without understanding what a bone even is. You don't know about fractures. You don't know about healing. All you know is that yesterday your leg worked, and today it doesn't. For an ancient human, that uncertainty may have been almost as frightening as the pain itself. But here's something remarkable. Your body begins repairing the damage almost immediately. Before you even think about standing, tiny cells have already started cleaning the wound. Blood gathers around the break, forming a thick clot. Think of it like nature pouring wet cement into a cracked foundation. The clot isn't there to fix the bone. Not yet. It's there to create a temporary bridge, a place where healing can begin. Then another group of cells arrives. White blood cells. Today we think of them as infection fighters, but they're also the cleanup crew. They remove shattered tissue, damaged blood vessels, tiny fragments of broken bone. Without that cleanup, nothing else could happen. Healing always begins by making room for something new. But 50,000 years ago, healing wasn't your biggest problem. Staying alive long enough for healing to matter. That was the challenge. Because a broken leg isn't just an injured leg. It steals your independence. Yesterday you could collect firewood. Today you can't. Yesterday you carried water. Today someone carries it for you. Yesterday you helped chase animals across open plains. Today you can't even follow the group. Everything changes. Imagine your family needs to move camp tomorrow. The herd has migrated. The berries nearby are gone. The river has frozen. Staying means starving. Moving means survival. Except you can't move. Every kilometer becomes agony. Every uneven stone threatens to make the fracture worse. Your family now faces an impossible decision. Do they stay, risking everyone's survival, or leave, risking yours? This wasn't a rare problem. Hunter-gatherers traveled constantly. They followed animals, seasonal plants, fresh water, sometimes walking hundreds of kilometers across an entire year. Their home wasn't a building. It was wherever survival demanded they go. And suddenly, one member can't keep up. So what did they do? The answer is hidden in ancient bones. Archaeologists have discovered skeletons belonging to people who suffered devastating injuries. Broken femurs, crushed knees, shattered ankles, injuries that would have left them unable to walk for months. Yet those same bones healed. Not perfectly. Sometimes the legs healed slightly crooked, sometimes shorter than before, sometimes leaving permanent limps. But they healed. Healing like that takes weeks, sometimes months, which means something extraordinary happened. Someone brought them food. Someone carried water. Someone protected them while predators wandered nearby. Someone kept the fire burning. Someone waited. That changes the way we think about prehistoric life. For generations, people imagined ancient humans surviving through brute strength alone. Only the strongest lived. Only the fastest survived. But the archaeological evidence tells a different story. Compassion may have been one of humanity's oldest survival tools. Imagine you're part of that hunting group again. Your friend lies on the ground, his leg bent at an angle no leg should ever bend. He isn't getting up. You could leave him. That would certainly be easier. He can't help hunt anymore. He'll slow everyone down. He's become another mouth to feed. Nature would make that choice without hesitation. But humans rarely follow nature's simplest rules. Instead, the group gathers around him. One person tears long strips of animal hide. Another searches for straight branches. Someone else collects sturdy saplings. Without ever reading a medical textbook, they already understand something important. The broken leg must not move. Not because they know anatomy, because every movement makes the pain worse. Straight branches are placed along each side of the injured leg. Animal hide wraps tightly around them. The splint isn't perfect. It doesn't need to be. It only needs to stop the broken bones from grinding together while the person is moved. Even today, a simple splint works using exactly the same principle. Some technologies never become obsolete. Now comes the hardest part, getting home. Imagine carrying another adult across rough Ice Age terrain. There are no smooth roads, no stretchers, no wheelchairs. Every step is uneven. Someone slips. Someone stumbles. The injured person cries out. The group stops, adjusts, keeps going, again and again, hour after hour. Every kilometer costs precious energy. Energy that could have been spent hunting, gathering, preparing for winter, helping children, keeping the camp alive. Yet they keep carrying him anyway. Why? Because somewhere along humanity's journey, we discovered something remarkable. Helping another person survive often helps you survive too. And that single idea may have changed human history forever. By the time the group finally reaches camp, the hardest part still hasn't begun, because now they have to wait. Healing a broken leg isn't measured in hours or days. It's measured in months. And during those months, life doesn't slow down. The sun still rises. The children still get hungry. Firewood still needs collecting. Predators still circle the camp after dark. Winter still comes. The world refuses to pause simply because someone is injured. But your body has already begun one of the most extraordinary engineering projects in nature. Over the next several days, something called a soft callus begins to form around the fracture. If you could somehow shrink yourself down and look inside the broken leg, you wouldn't see the bone reconnecting. Not yet. Instead, you'd see a flexible bridge made mostly of collagen. Think of it as scaffolding around a damaged building. It's weak. It bends. It certainly isn't ready to support your weight, but it's enough to keep the two broken pieces connected while stronger material is built. The problem is that every unnecessary movement threatens to tear that bridge apart, which means the injured person spends weeks doing almost nothing. Imagine that. You're used to walking 20 kilometers a day, climbing hills, crossing rivers, tracking animals through forests. Then suddenly, your entire world shrinks to a few square meters beside the fire. At first, you probably hate it. You hear the hunting party preparing to leave before sunrise. You watch everyone disappear over the hill. You want to help. You can't. Hours pass. The camp grows quiet. Children play nearby. The fire crackles. Smoke rises toward the cave ceiling. And all you can do is wait. For modern people, doing nothing feels boring. For ancient humans, doing nothing could feel terrifying, because every meal someone gives you is a meal they don't eat themselves. Think about dinner. A hunter returns carrying meat from a successful hunt. The animal doesn't belong to one person. It belongs to the group. Pieces are cut, shared, passed from hand to hand. Eventually, someone kneels beside the injured hunter and places food into his hands. That single moment tells us something profound. The group has made a choice. They are spending valuable calories on someone who cannot repay them today. From a purely mathematical perspective, that seems like a terrible decision. Food is scarce. Winter may be approaching. Children need to eat. Why feed someone who can't hunt? For a long time, scientists asked exactly the same question. Then they began studying hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today. What they found challenged many assumptions. Sharing isn't charity. It's insurance. Today you're injured. Tomorrow it might be me. Next year, it might be the strongest hunter in the group. If everyone helps the injured, everyone has a better chance of surviving when their own turn comes. Cooperation isn't kindness replacing survival. It is survival. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a group where nobody helps. Break your leg? You're abandoned. Become sick? You're left behind. Grow old? You're no longer useful. At first glance, that sounds efficient. Only the strongest survive. But there's a problem. Eventually, everyone becomes weak. Even the best hunter grows old. Even the fastest runner gets injured. Even the healthiest child catches an illness. A society that abandons weakness eventually abandons everyone. Perhaps that's why humans evolved differently. Our greatest advantage wasn't sharper teeth or stronger muscles. It was our willingness to invest in each other. And archaeology keeps revealing evidence of that investment. One of the most famous discoveries comes from a skeleton found in Iraq's Shanidar Cave. The individual was a Neanderthal, not even our own species. He had suffered multiple serious injuries during his lifetime. One arm had likely been crippled. He may have been partially blind. His body showed signs of repeated trauma. Yet he lived for years afterward. Think carefully about that. A hunter with one functional arm, living into old age. That shouldn't be possible. Not unless other people hunted for him, protected him, fed him, included him. The same story appears again and again across different archaeological sites. Broken bones that healed. Missing limbs survived. Severe disabilities endured for decades. The evidence points toward one remarkable conclusion. Ancient humans, and even Neanderthals, often refused to leave the injured behind. But healing isn't simply about food. There's another enemy waiting. One far smaller than wolves, and far deadlier. Infection. Today, if bacteria enter an open wound, doctors clean it, disinfect it, sometimes prescribe antibiotics. 50,000 years ago, none of that existed. If the broken bone pierced the skin, the danger increased dramatically. Dirt, animal waste, tiny invisible bacteria, all could enter the wound. Nobody knew they existed. People couldn't see germs, but they certainly understood infected wounds. The skin becomes red, hot, swollen. Pus begins collecting. Fever follows. Soon, the injured person grows weaker, confused, too exhausted to eat. Even a relatively small infection could spread through the bloodstream. Once that happened, survival became far less likely. Ironically, some of humanity's earliest medicines may have been discovered completely by accident. Certain plants naturally reduce inflammation. Others slow bacterial growth. Some tree barks contain compounds remarkably similar to modern pain relievers. Ancient people didn't know chemistry, but they understood observation. If chewing one leaf seemed to reduce pain, you remembered it. If a certain plant made wounds worse, you avoided it. Knowledge accumulated slowly, generation after generation, not through books, through experience. Every survivor became a teacher. Every mistake became someone else's lesson. And sometimes, the oldest person in camp wasn't the strongest. They were simply the one who remembered the most, because surviving a broken leg didn't depend only on healthy bones. It depended on knowledge. Knowledge that had taken thousands of years years to collect. And knowledge could be every bit as life-saving as food. Eventually, if everything went well, the pain began to change, not disappear. Change. The sharp, unbearable agony that came with every movement slowly faded into a deep, constant ache. That wasn't a sign the bone had healed. It was a sign your body had entered the next stage of repair. Inside the fracture, the soft callus that first connected the broken pieces was slowly being replaced. Tiny bone-building cells called osteoblasts arrived by the millions. They began laying down fresh bone around the brea. Not smooth bone, not beautiful bone, a thick, lumpy mass that looked almost like nature had wrapped plaster around the fracture. Doctors call this a hard callus. It's incredibly strong, but also incredibly rough. If you could see it, you'd probably think the bone had healed badly. In reality, this bulky shape is exactly what your body wants. Strength comes first. Perfection comes later.